All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully, you guys can see and hear me okay. So, I know I was offline yesterday. I wasn't feeling too great. Truth is, I'm not feeling too great today either, but I figured I kind of wanted to make a little bit more progress, so we'll see how we get. Hey, TP. How's it going? Good to see you. So today we're going to pick up where we left off last week, which was working on the terrain. So if I recall correctly, we got a dynamically generated mesh rendering, but I think it was upside down / backwards. So we're going to resolve that and then take a look at actually importing some height map data and go from there. Okay. So, the first thing I guess I need to do is go to, I'm already in the terrain branch, so let's open up a Vim. And it should already be built, so let's just, as a quick refresher, we'll go ahead and run real quick here. So I'll go ahead and launch testbed. And we'll load up the scene. And I'll just zoom out a little bit and go down. And yeah, we see here that we have our terrain geometry there. Might be a little bit hard to see. I'm not sure. I guess it shows up all right in the preview. So it looks like it's relatively centered, right? It's clipping into the sponza a little bit here. And so we're going to turn that around and make it the right direction. And I'm also going to change up the level file a little bit. So assets, what do I call it? Scenes, test scene. So I'm going to go ahead and disable the sponza mesh. Did I have anything that was parented to that? I don't remember. I thought I did, but I might have removed it. Let's see. I don't think so, actually. Sponza. Yeah, it's just those two things. Okay. I think I had the Falcon parented or childed to it at one point, but I'm going to go ahead and just comment these guys out. Right? So that way we can kind of see what we're doing a little bit better. And I guess let's go. Let's see. Guess. Let me open up terrain since I think this is where the actual issue is going to be. I thought I had this buffer open, but apparently not. So I think the issue is going to be with the order that we're generating these vertices. Well, I guess you could say either the order that we're generating the vertices or the order that we're generating the indices is technically wrong. I suppose probably it would be a little bit easier to change the indices than it would be the vertices. So I guess we'll go ahead and do that. So really quickly, let me just run this one more time just to make sure that the sponza isn't actually loading. Right. Yeah, so that we have the mesh there for the car, and then we have the terrain just sort of sitting here. Okay, so that should make things a little bit easier to work with. So if we take a look at how we're actually drawing things out here, it looks like we're going 0, 1, 2, 2, 1, 3. And so I think what's happening here is the winding order of these is basically backwards. So I'm thinking it's going clockwise when it really should be going counterclockwise. And that will actually flip the faces around the other way that we need them. So I think all I really need to do here is just rearrange these things. So if we do 2, 1, 0, And then I guess it would be 3, 1, 2. I think. Let's go ahead and write that, and we will open up a terminal and build. I thought I had build all is what I want. Build all. There we go. All right, so we'll build that, and then come over here and run testbed, and we'll load up. And let's see what we have. It looks like that is correct. Sweet. So it looks like I'm thinking my normal information is all correct, because if we take a look at how this guy here is sort of reflecting light, it seems to kind of line up with that. So I think we're okay on that, at least for now. Now, remember that we sort of just generated normals that are sort of pointing straight up. So that's not always going to be what we want. But for now, it will be good enough. So I think the first thing that I'm going to do is we'll come into our terrain file here, and where we're sort of hard coding the position Y, I'm going to randomize this a little bit, just so we can kind of see a little bit of variation, so that we can kind of see how this is going to work before we actually hook up an image to it. So I'm just going to hard code something very temporary here. All right, so I think what I need for that is, I believe it was under KMath, random in range, FK random in range. That's what I need. So let's go with a range of, you know what, I'm going to do this on a separate line, actually. Let's go with v position dot y equals kf random. Oh, we don't have kmath. Okay. Let's get that in here first. Oh, wait, yes, we do. Why is that not showing up? Okay. KF random in range. Our minimum is going to be, let's say, negative 1.0 f, and our maximum will be 1.0 f, right? So we'll have a range of basically 2 along the y-axis. So we'll write that. Why is this saying undeclared function? Is my IntelliSense borked somewhere for some reason? Because this is in math, KMath. Let's go ahead and go back to the terminal and we'll build. I think I wrote this change. So let's build. Nope. Did we not include it up here? I thought we did. Math, kmath.h. What am I missing? Even opens it right up. What is it talking about? Random in range. FK random in range. Oh, did I mix that up maybe? I might have mixed that up. I did. The naming on that's probably backwards, actually. I should probably fix that. But for right now, let's build it and run. Hey, Taman, how's it going? Yeah, Airsley, yeah, I caught that FK, not KF. That's my own fault because most of my stuff that starts with or has a K in it is the K is supposed to come first. That's my own fault. Yeah, it's supposed to be float K random, which is not correct. But what are we doing tonight? So we are continuing on with our terrain system, which now has some variation in height, right? So we can kind of see that our scale is really small for this, which is okay because it'll give us a little bit more detail in the mesh itself. But as we can see, because our normal information is hard coded and not automatically generated, this isn't really accurate, right? We're not getting accurate lighting information. It's treating it as a flat plane. So we're gonna have to fix that. Yeah, so it's like it's hilly but not, right? And so I figure we could probably fix that stuff first and then move on to actually getting it to work off of a height map, right? So the way that I am thinking this probably needs to be done is we do have a, you know what, before I actually do that, let me go to kmath.h and rename this because that is going to annoy the crap out of me. Instead of fk random and range and fk random, because those are backwards. Like the k random and the k random and range are both integer versions of that. I suppose I could have an I in there for something, but I'm going to name it kf random because you can see that already tripped me up, and this is the first time I'm using it. So I'll write that change, and then let's see, we need to go to kmath.c and do the same thing here. So this is fk random, so this is going to be kf random and kf random and range. All right, so we'll write that. What is with my formatting all of a sudden? I know what it is. I think I forgot to copy my formatting rules over from another project. 1 second. Let me... I actually have another... I have another file that I can copy this from. Let's see. I want to copy... I think it was Clang format, I think it was. I thought it was. Do I not have it in there? Maybe I don't have it in there. I thought I did. Where did I put that? Give me 1 second to find it, because that is going to drive me absolutely batty. So I think I put it in... Apparently don't have one. That seems really strange to me. I thought I put that... Maybe it was in main? We stash this for a second. What did I do with those? All right, whatever. I'll figure it out off camera. And I'll just move on for now. Okay, so get stash pop. All right. So let's figure out the. I still don't know why this is complaining about this, but I have a suspicion now anyway. Let's figure out the bit of this where we need to generate our normals. So I have something called geometry utils. And we have something to generate normals based off of vertices and indices, which should be exactly what we need in order to handle this properly. We can also generate tangents. And this does all of this stuff in place, which is nice because we don't have to, copy a whole bunch of data around. We could just sort of do it in place. So after we generate the vertices and the indices, we will need to come down here and say geometry utils. I don't have it included. Nope. So let's go to here, put include math, geometry utils. All right. So geometry utils generate normals. And to that, we want to do the vertex count, which I believe we actually set up here in the terrain itself. So we have the index count and the vertex count. So we can just pass in t vertex count, then t vertices, then t index count, then t indices. Okay. So we'll do that, and then we'll do geometry utils generate geometry utils generate tangents. And once again, it's going to need these same arguments. So I'm actually just going to select all these things, put those there. And that should do it. That should vastly improve what we have anyway. So we need to go back to the terminal, build. Oh, did I forget to? Yeah, I forgot to change it here. KF random in range. I think that's the only spot that is actually using it. Yeah. So let's write that. Geometry utils generate tangents. Did I spell something wrong again? I might have. Oh, it's just geometry generate. That should probably be geometry utils generate, but whatever. Let's roll with it for now, and we can always fix it later. All right. Oops. Yeah, I guess it wants it on a different line. Whatever. Okay, so we will write that. We will come over here to terminal and build again. What am I missing now? Incompatible pointer types. Passing terrain vertex. Oh, right, because this wants vertex 3Ds. And we are eventually going to need these types to diverge. So we're actually going to need... We're going to need a different version of this function, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, there's no utils. Yeah, I know. I probably should rename those, but Let's see. Fex. Hi. Hey, how's it going? What IDE OS are you using? So I'm using Vim as my editor, and then I'm using Arch Linux as my OS at the moment. Arch, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to need to go to... this feels weird to just, like, rewrite all this code, though. Or duplicate it, rather. Oh, well. I'm going to do it for now. I'll find a more clever way to do it in the future. For now, I'm just going to duplicate it. But I am going to put a to-do so that I don't lose track of it. So let's see. We'll go... You know what? I'm going to go all the way to the end, actually. And put it down here. And I'm going to say terrain geometry, generate normals, which means I'm going to need terrain. Did I call it terrain vertex? Terrain vertex. So there's no 3D, which kind of makes sense. Okay, so that'll be terrain vertex, and then indices will be the same. So really it's just for that one type, which, man, that really sucks. I probably could do this with, like, passing just a void pointer with, like, byte offsets, I suppose. I don't like that any better, to be honest, but like I said, I'm going to roll with it for now. So terrain vertex. And I think that's actually all I have to do, literally. See, this is like one of those times where, like, if I was using C++, I could just inherit it, but C doesn't really have that. Vim is awesome. What plugin do I use? So I actually have, I posted an article on my website all about this. So let me just bring that up here really quickly. So this is my website here. And I wrote a new article here about my NeoVim setup. And so this basically details, like, the entire setup that I have, what plugins I use, how my configuration is laid out, all that stuff. So also what my key bindings are and so forth. So all of that is here. Editor VS Code on all 3 platforms. Yeah, I mean, I do use... I have used VS Code. I used VS Code up until very recently, but I don't know. I've always liked Vim better, and I finally have a setup where it's mostly working. I still have some things to tweak, but for the most part, it works pretty well. Okay, so let me open up the geometry utils H file, go to the bottom of it. I'm not going to bother with the comments for now because I have a feeling I'm going to refactor this anyway. So I'm just going to put the function signatures in here for the 2 functions. So let's go here. And down here. We'll put that here. And... did I do that here? Nope. Okay. All right, so I'll just get those there. I suppose I could forward declare these here, actually, which I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to forward declare them down here, though, because, again, I think terrain vertex. I think down here goes. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate the support there. Let's change these to struct. Right. So there's that. And then in here, I will actually include resources terrain.h. And I think that's everything I should need. I'm really going to have to fix this formatting issue. That is rubbish. I'm a VS Code with Vim user. I haven't made the jump yet. Yeah, I just recently made the jump, and I'm really liking it. Except for when I run into stupid things like when my formatter stops working correctly. But I think I know why that is. I think my format rules file just went missing, so I'm just going to fix it off camera. Okay, so, oops. Open the old terminal and build. What is this complaining about now? Oh, probably because I didn't change it here. So terrain geometry. Worked for one, but not the other. What did I call it? I thought I called it. Oh, I didn't rename that one. What a dingus. I can tell I'm still not 100% with it tonight. Did I do that in the C file? Probably did. Yeah, I think it's declared twice here. Yeah, it is. So write that. And now I should be able to build it. Did I miss another one? Oh, Vulkan backend actually uses it. I didn't realize that. Okay. So fk random. Oh, we use it a couple times. What was this for? Oh, when we're generating, oh, we just added that. That's why. When we're generating the debug labels, we're generating random colors. Okay, so I guess we can do, let me see if I can remember the key combination to this. I think it was this. Yeah, and then all right. So let's try again. Hopefully this time we're good. Looks like we are. All right. Let's run testbed. Load. Hey, we've got shaded terrain. It's super bumpy, right? Obviously, if this was more spread out, it wouldn't be that bumpy. But if we view the normal information, we can actually see that it looks reasonably correct. It looks like all the colors are on the correct axis. And so, it's predominantly green, which makes sense because it's facing up along the y-axis. So all of that does make sense. We actually have a fairly dense terrain here, which, we can always increase the scale of that. I think we've got a scale of 1 right now. So the scale will obviously just make each of those individual tiles bigger. But I think this is fine for now because we don't need some huge sprawling terrain yet, right? We can always adjust that later. All right, so with this done, I think it's time we probably should move on and start creating a some sort of height map to actually import. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to cheat and just grab one off the interwebs as a quick test. So let's see. We want a terrain height map. Let's see what we get. Should bring this down here so you guys can actually see it. So we'll see what we get. I'm going to make this a floating window for a second. So images. This is probably risky doing this on stream, but image search, you know, nothing like doing it live, right? Let's see. Can we find one that's decent? I guess we could go with this one here. This seems kind of this one seems kind of cool, right? It's got like a mountain range with a river running through it. I think we could use this guy. So let's take a look at that. Fex and Oglethorpe, thank you so much for the follows. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support. Okay, so as you can see, this is a pretty big image, right? And so the way that this is going to be used is we're going to read each one of these pixels and take the value of that and use it to determine our terrain's height. And we probably won't deal with negative heights in terms of height maps, right? We'll probably just treat 0 as like a 0 height and white as 1, right? Here we're actually in the engine itself, we're actually using -1 to 1. We could use whatever range we want theoretically, but I think when we're loading it from an image, it makes a little bit more sense to do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this real quick. Let's see. Let's put it in. This is a PNG file, so it's like way too big for this, but that's fine. I'm just going to slam it into the assets textures folder, right? And I did that off camera just because I don't want to show my file browser and whatnot. Okay. So ordinarily, what we would want to do is we'd probably want to use a single channel texture, right? So that we don't have to use such a large image. But in this case, I'm just going to use an RGBA image. Hey, side question. How did you set up the debug symbols, icons in the lower half of the screen? Pause, run, step into, etc. That's a combination of the DAP debugger that I have installed, the DAP UI plugin, and the nerd font that I have installed, which is the Meslo nerd font. It has all of the logos sort of embedded into it. And that's what allows me to like display these little things here, like the C logo and the little penguin, that kind of stuff. Combination of those things, basically. All right. So if we have a look in our assets tree, I went ahead and placed the terrain height map in here. At least I thought I did. Did I not? I could have swore I just did, quite honestly. Let me double check. Wow, it saved it to my root folder for some reason. Okay. You failed me, Firefox. Why have you done this? I can't believe you've done this. All right, let me move that to where it's actually supposed to be. Assets, textures. Okay. There it is. So now we have our terrain height map. All right. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to open this guy up and we're going to read this pixel by pixel. We're going to take the pixel data. I guess we'll just take the RG and B and just sort of add them together and then divide by 3 and take that value. And that's what we'll use. To do this, I'm temporarily going to hard code some stuff and terrain.c. Let's see. So we have our terrain initialize. There's 2 ways that we could do this, actually. Because one thing that we want to bear in mind is that terrain data itself should not be aware of what it came from, right? So the terrain itself shouldn't be aware that it came from a height map, right? That's more of an import function. If anything, it's more of an editor function. So we probably shouldn't do that here. We probably should have some sort of file format that we actually write to and read from that actually stores that information for us. And if we do that, we would also be able to store the other information we're eventually going to need to store, which is material data for each of the materials that the terrain's going to use. And then obviously height data for each vertex. There's going to be height data and a vertex ID, a material ID. And I guess a couple of other flags that we could potentially have, like, is it visible or not, right? Like, because we're eventually going to want like holes in the terrain, maybe. And so I'm trying to think where is the best place to actually sort of instantiate this logic. Because I really don't want to put it in here. I suppose I could for the sake of just getting something up and running, but it's already kind of reading some of this stuff from config. So I guess let's do it in the actual loader. I was trying to avoid this, but let's actually not avoid it. Let's just do it the right way. So terrain. I thought we had a terrain loader. Did we not? Oh, right. I think we're just parsing this directly out of the... We don't... What we actually have is... all we have is this. And this is technically all that really belongs in the scene file. So we probably ought to put this to use. Okay. I was going to avoid doing this, but I think we kind of need to do it, because otherwise I'm going to have to undo a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just start on our terrain format. So I'm thinking similar to a lot of our other formats, what we might have is sort of like a human readable import format, where we can declare something like a height map, for example, and we can include some other human readable flags, like what you have in here. And then we have a binary format that just deals with the actual terrain data itself. And so the human readable format would be what we're going to generate now, which will eventually also be generated by an editor. And then that editor, the editor will sort of generate one of those and then load it, or just generate it in memory and not even bother with the load, right? I'm thinking that's probably going to be the best way to handle this. So we already have a resource name here of test terrain. So I guess what that really means is we need to actually go into our resources and start generating a loader for this. So we'll go into engine, source, we'll go to resources, loaders, and what is a good one that we could use as an example? Like the way the simple scene loader works is pretty close to how we're going to do this, but we don't actually need all of it. What does the mesh loader look like? I think I already kind of copied this once, but rather than rewriting all of this from scratch, right? Like I think I can probably go ahead and use this. So let's see, that's the KSM file. Oh, right, this imports an OBJ. Yeah, I don't want to use that as an example. Let's do... Actually, I think shader loader might actually be a decent example. Yeah, let's copy shader loader. I think that's actually what I copied before, but yeah, let's actually use this one because it's a pretty simple loader and we can actually use that as a template. So terminal, we will actually, I don't even need to do it this way. I can do it in here. I keep forgetting. So I can copy this and then I could paste a copy of it. And I will rename it. And I will call it terrain loader. And I can copy this and paste it, rename, and I will call it terrain loader. And let's open up the H file. Let's see, shader config resources. So we will just say what are you doing, Vim? Terrain config resources. Okay. Terrain. And we'll just call this terrain resource loader create. I think that's all we have to do in here. Oh, change the file. Oops. Okay. So we've got that. The C file, we're going to change this. Terrain loader.h. I think we're going to need most of this stuff. So I'm going to keep most of this stuff for now. I'm going to go all the way to the end, actually, and start here at the bottom. And rename this guy terrain resource loader. Resource type shader. I don't think we actually have terrain in here. No, so we're going to have to add that. So let's go to definition there. We will add right here. Resource type terrain. Oops, caps lock is still on. Terrain resource type. All right. And then go back, change this to terrain. Custom type, we don't have anything for that. Rename this. This is going to be terrain loader load. And we'll rename this. Terrain loader unload. Type path is going to be terrains. All right. And now we should be ready to go. All right. So what I'm going to do is similar to how we've written our other loaders, is I'm going to generate sort of the asset next to this, and then generate the loader at the same time, right? So I'm going to add a new file, and this is going to be terrains. So I'm going to add that folder there. And then I'm going to, let's see, add. I think we were going to call it test terrain dot KTN. Kohi terrain, KTN. Well, I guess that'd be the binary, I guess. So let's say K-terrain for the human readable version. Yeah, I think that'll work. All right, let's open that up. Meant to open that over here. Right, and then over here, terrain loader. So, as with most other things, we're going to have a comment. So we'll say Kohi terrain config file. We will also, I guess if we load it this way, we'll have a couple of different methods of importing terrain data. One of those will be a height map, right? So if height map is set, I guess we'll say height map file. If that is actually set, then we'll import that. And so I wonder if I should put that under textures or if I should just put it with terrains. I think I'm going to move that from textures. Yeah, I'm going to cut this and paste it here, because it's not really ever going to be used as a texture. We're not going to load it into the GPU or anything like that. So, all right, so height map file should exist right next to should exist right next to the terrain file, the config file. So we're going to say terrain heightmap.png. And normally we don't specify an extension, but I think for this case, I think I'm going to require it. If set image is used as heightmap data, extension required. All right, so that's the heightmap file. From that, we'll also get the number of tiles wide by the number of tiles long. Control WR to rotate the V-splits. Yeah, I always forget what that key binding is. I'm still getting used to it. Also, you're recording a macro, press Q to quit. Yeah. Good on you. Thank you. I usually sometimes I hit that by mistake, and so I wind up recording macros all the time. All right, so we have. I think the only thing that we need to set is our scale X and scale Y. Or actually, I guess it'll be scale X and scale Z, right? So I'm still going to set these to 1.0. 1.0. And actually, we do have a scale Y. And that's going to be our height scale. Yeah, me too, EJJJ. Yeah. I'm always fat fingering stuff. I mean, if you've watched me program it any amount of times, I'm always terrible about it. I have these big old Sasquatch hands, and they just, butterfinger bars. They hit all the wrong things. Trying to think, what else do we need? What else do we need in here? I don't think anything. So let's go ahead and write this for now. And we'll modify this to fit our new requirements. So we have a .shader config. This is going to be changed to a k-terrain. I should also probably put a to-do in here. Binary format. We're not going to get to the binary format tonight, or likely anytime soon, but I do want to put a to-do in there so it doesn't get forgotten. All right, so we open the file. This is obviously wrong here, so terrain loader, unenroll to open. Terrain file for reading. Okay. The full path, we want to keep that. Here is the shader config. So actually, I don't think we actually have a terrain config as of yet, do we? Initialize. Oh, we do. Okay, I couldn't remember if I actually created one or not. I know there's one for the simple scene, but... so let's actually have a look at that. Okay, so we have the name, tile count, scale, which, technically speaking, we actually need to have a... let's see, the max height of the generated terrain. And this is going to be F32. This isn't really tile scale. It's just scale Y. Okay, and the material names. Okay, so we're not going to specify these yet because we don't have any of that hooked up, so we're just going to hook up this stuff right now. Okay, so we have terrain config, which is in our terrain.h, so we need to include that. So resources, terrain.h, and this just needs to be terrain config. Memory tag resource. Okay, so here's where we set all of the defaults. So I don't think in this case we're actually going to have to set up any arrays. So resource data. Name. Nope, we're actually setting that later, so we don't even have to do that. Allocate automatically zeroes out all of this stuff for us. So I guess the only thing I'm going to put in here to be explicit about it is I'm going to zero these out. Material names equals 0. And then put it to do materials. And then we can get rid of all of that. We have resource name, which I think actually is read from the name. It is, so we'll actually have to put a name in here because it could vary from the file name. So let's say name equals test terrain, right? So we have a name in there. All right. We don't need render pass. We don't need any of this stages stuff. Stage files, we don't need any of that. We don't need call mode. Actually, we don't need most of this stuff. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut to here. Get rid of that. All right. And I'm going to say instead, if we have scale X, then I'm just going to move this up here. Change this to a not. Okay, warn about it. Format error failed to parse scale X. And I guess I'll just move on, right? Let's see. And this actually isn't even fields. I don't need actually any of that logic. All I need is trimmed value. Oh, wait a minute. What am I doing? Scale X. No, I don't want that. I want, where is it? Aren't I doing conversion in here somewhere? I thought I was. Nope. All right. I know what it's supposed to be, though. This isn't supposed to be strings equal I here. This is supposed to be string to F32. And then I believe this just takes a pointer. Okay, so this should be the address of resource data tile scale X. All right. And that is all I should need. So all the rest of this, all the way down, let's see how far. All the way down to, I think here, can actually go away. Well, I might have foobarred something here. So that closes that one. Then we need a close for the while loop, which should be here, I think. Let me check the chat. Looks like we don't have anything. Okay. I do want to take a second to point out, though, I do kind of try to keep an eye on chat. So if you guys have any questions or whatnot, feel free to jump into chat. I try to keep an eye on it and answer questions and things to the best of my ability. So cool. All right. What is this? Okay. Don't need that. Don't need that. I guess I did have it right. Okay. More fields. Don't need that. And then this is for the line buffer, which is the while loop that's here, I think. Well, that's the while loop. Okay. And the only other one outside the while loop should be this guy, which it's not. So that needs to go away. And then I think we're right. These need to move up. There. Okay. I think that's correct now. So, oh, we don't have a version in here. We probably ought to set that up as well. So we'll say version equals 1. Today I'm mostly listening to the stream as I learn how to port my engine to Xbox. Oh, nice. That sounds like fun. Hoping to do that with this one eventually. Of course, that does mean that, I have to have a DirectX backend. But it is what it is. Okay, so if not string to version number, I think was it U32? Trimmed value. Address of resource data. Or was it just resource? I thought we had version up here somewhere. So we have resource data. I guess we're not setting the resource here until the very end. Out resource data, out resource. Oh, is it maybe just out resource? That might actually be what I'm looking for. Out resource. Loader ID. We should probably standardize that. But I don't want to rewrite all my loaders right now. That's probably why I have a to-do here. All right, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to put, I guess, let's call it a U32 version. And we'll start it off at 0. And then if we have to do any version checking, we can make sure that's greater than 0 later. So we'll say version. I guess this is really the only place where it matters anyway. Okay, warn. Invalid, actually, format error, invalid version, file version. And this is going to be basically for places where we have like breaking changes in the file format. We want to be able to specify different versions of the file that we want to use. The not so funny part is Microsoft documentation. Yeah, sometimes it's decent, sometimes it's not. It really depends on what you're dealing with. Some of it is pretty sparse, to put it mildly. All right, so put in another couple cases here. So we have scale X, we got scale Y, this is just going to be scale Y, and scale Z, and scale Z. And I suppose we could have an else to capture everything else, maybe. The page about X game runtime init is literally reference material for X game run init. Yeah, it's done. Yeah. You know what I really miss was X and A. I thought that was actually pretty well put together. I was not pleased when they axed that. I thought that was a really great framework. They were really going in a really cool direction with that. And I thought it was reasonably documented too, actually. Especially the SDK and all that. But yeah. All right. So we have the scale. Oh, we need the Heightmap file. So Heightmap file, I think we can just handle here locally. So I think what I'll do is, actually I'll put it below version. I'll say character, whoops, Heightmap, whoops, map file. And we'll default that to 0. And if it winds up being set, then we'll actually load a Heightmap. So we need to put in a case here. Else if strings equal I, trimmed var name, and we'll compare that against Heightmap file. So if we find that, then we will go ahead and take a copy of it. So we will say Heightmap file equals string duplicate, and we will string duplicate the trimmed value. Okay. And then once we're done reading that file, then we can actually load the image file. So at this point, we closed the configuration file because we have everything we need from it, at least right now. So now load the height map if one is configured. So how do we want to do this? So I believe let me see something real quick. I'm pretty sure that the image loader itself will give us exactly what we need. Let me just have a look at this. I think this just gives us RGBA, right? It uses the STBI library. Read all bytes. let's see. We get the data, the pixels. Yeah, so it gives us the data in pixels, and it gives us the width and the height and channel count. So actually, this loader is already going to give us everything we need. So that's actually going to save us quite a lot of work. So if Heightmap file, then we need to basically follow the same pattern. So we need to say resource system load. And we need the name of the resource. So in this case, it's going to be Heightmap file. The resource type is going to be resource type image. Oops, image. Params. I don't remember if this actually needed params or not. Params. Did this use params? Image resource params. Flip Y. I don't think I'm going to bother with that. Typed params. Oh, I may have to, actually. Yeah, because this expects it. Image resource params. Okay. It's not a big deal. I can create that easy enough. So, image resource params dot flip Y. Whoops. Flip Y equals false, I guess. I may want that to be true, but I'm going to be explicit here and say false. Need the address of params and resource. So resource Heightmap image resource, and we're going to pass the address of Heightmap image resource. Oops, forgot the address of there. All right, and I think this returns a Boolean. Yes. So we need to check that. If, yeah, let's do a negative check. So if not resource. K-error, unable to load Heightmap file for terrain. What should we do in this case? Because I don't want to crash or anything like that. Right, so we should probably setting some reasonable defaults. So we'll say out, actually resource data, scale Y equals resource data, scale X equals, well, actually those things might have parsed. It's not actually the scale I want to set anyways. It's the tile count. Right, so it'll be tile count X equals resource data, tile count Z equals 100. Okay, so we'll just kind of use the same default that we have now. That way when we actually go to create it, we're not missing any sort of data. Okay. So at this point, we should have the resource loaded. So now we just need to loop through the data. So the way that this resource loads is it's loading it as a 4-channel image, which I probably ought to make our resource loader for the image a little bit more flexible than that, maybe through these parameters, but for now I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just treat it like that, as is. So we should have resource data. And actually, what did we say that resource data was gonna, do we have a structure for that? I think we did. Image resource data. So we'll go ahead and cold cast that. Image resource data. Image data equals resource data cold casted to image resource data. Okay. And then we're basically going to want to run through this a pixel at a time, which is going to be basically in increments of 4. So we'll say for u32 I equals 0. I is less than, do we have image data? I'm going to have to calculate that because we don't have the total pixel count. So we'll have to say width times height. Okay. So u32 pixel count equals image data width times image data height. And now I can say less than pixel count times 4. Let's actually wall that off here. And then plus I. All right, actually it's not going to be plus I. It's going to be I plus equals 4. Why is this bleating? Oh, it should be Heightmap image resource. Data. Why are you bleating? Oh, right. Derp, it's not a pointer. That syntax screws me up every once in a while. Still to this day, as long as I've been using C. Still, every once in a while it gets me. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to take the average of RG and B, and we're going to ignore the alpha channel. So we're going to do, let's call this U32. Actually, no, we're going to store this as a float. Float. Yeah. All right. So let's do what's going to be the cleanest way to do this? I guess the most understandable way to do this, I suppose we could optimize it later, is I'll just say U8 R equals image data pixels, and then I it'll be I times 4 plus 0, right? So I want to do this first. So pixel number times 4 plus 0 because it's R. It's going to be the first channel, right? So we'll yank that and put a couple more copies. Actually, we don't need this last one because we can ignore that. So we'll just say 1 and 2, and then G and B. And then we'll go ahead and say F32 value equals R plus G plus B divided by 3, right? And then we'll take that entire thing, whoops, and divide it by 255.0f. Let's see, did I get my parentheses right? Result of integer division. Possible loss of precision. Yes, that is true. I suppose I could say that. All right. So I'll add these together and divide them by 3. That'll give me the average between them. And then divide that whole thing by 255 because the pixels will be in a range of 0 to 255. And this will convert it from a range of 0 to 1. So that'll give us the height. So actually, let's go ahead and call this height. Page Miss, hey, how's it going? Well, I hope. All right. So that reminds me, SDL. What about SDL? So now that we have the height value. Oh yeah, I know what SDL is. I was just wondering how it reminds you of SDL. I've used SDL in some other projects before. Yeah, it's pretty amazing framework actually. Okay. Oh, you used it before to write a game in C? Yeah. That's it's a pretty common framework to use for that. If this whole series wasn't educational, to kind of go into the underlying tech of all that kind of stuff, I may have used that myself, but we just kind of wrote our own version of that here. All right. So now that we have the height, we need somewhere to store it. And so our terrain configuration is actually going to require a little bit more data here, which is something we kind of expected anyways, because when we're reading in that configuration, we didn't have any height data. So I'm going to go to the definition of terrain config. And I could just put here an array of floats, right? And that could just be, I could call it height data. But we're going to wind up having more data to go along with that. And it's going to be per vertex data, right? Because eventually we're going to want material IDs and things like that. So I'm actually going to type def a new structure. And I'm going to call this terrain vertex data. Not 100% sold on that name yet, but that's what I'm rolling with for now. Vertex data, right? And in here, I'm going to say an F32 height. And that's going to be the only property for now, but we'll be adding those later, right? We'll be adding to it later. The man Opak, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to make this a D-array. And it's going to be terrain vertex data. And I guess I can call this, what do I want to call this? Vertex datas. That feels wrong. Feels wrong, but that's what I'm going to roll with right now anyway. Let's see. I'm implementing the engine itself. Yes. Yeah, I'm actually writing this entire engine with the exception of a few small libraries from scratch. Ooh, stretch redeem. Thank you. It's good timing on that redeem, actually. I needed a stretch. But why? Lots of reasons why. So, not every project needs something the size of Unity or Unreal, right? Some projects have very specific needs or lighter weight needs. So there's that. And then there's also, there's really not enough people out there who understand what all goes into an engine and how to write it. And my hope with this is to help people understand the underlying tech that's in an engine, and to kind of showcase a effort of making an engine and all the stuff that goes into it. Data says, yeah. And I'm hoping that, this is the kind of resource that I kind of wish had existed when I got into game development. And so I'm just kind of hoping that this will be a little bit of an educational resource, right? So that's kind of the idea behind it. This is all open source, by the way. So there's a repository for this, a website, everything. There's kohiengine.com that exists, that you can go to and read all about what we're doing. So all the source code for this is 100% open source and free. Okay, so we have our vertex datases. Oh, I'm so tempted to call it that, but I would hate myself later for doing that, honestly. So when we are setting up our initial data, we do actually need to create some arrays. So resource data, vertex datas equals darray create, and it'll be terrain vertex data. All right, so we have those now. You know what? I'm actually not going to create this array yet. I actually have a decent reason behind it. What I'm going to do is cut that and come down here, because we're not going to know the size of the array we need to create until we actually go ahead and, you know what? We don't even really need to use a D array for this, actually. Come to think of it, let's go back. Let me think about this for a second. Yeah, we're actually going to know the size of this. So we actually don't need a D array. We can use a fixed size array. So let's go back here, and I'm going to do away with that, right? And instead, U32 vertex data length. We are going to know this ahead of time. So let's go ahead and do that. We don't need the overhead of a dynamic array. And the reason we're going to know that is because either we're going to have a height map or we would have failed and created this anyway, right? So so what I'll do here in this case is, oh, I killed my buffer from before. Whatever. Resource data vertex data equals darray reserve, and it's going to be a terrain vertex data, and the capacity is going to be 100 times 100, right? And in this case, I'm just going to leave them all zeros, right? So actually this darray reserve is actually going to do that for us. So it'll be zeroed and just filled with zeros. Actually, the way we really should do this is resource data vertex data length should equal 100 times 100. Whoops, 100 times 100, and then we should really use the resource data length here. Right. Okay. So we have that. The other thing that we're going to know is we have this pixel count right here, which actually happens to coincide with our vertex data length. So we can actually know yeah, I'm going to keep it as a separate local variable for now. Resource data vertex data length equals pixel count. Right? And then all we have to do is we have this height, right? And I'm going to leave that as a separate line right now for debugging purposes, but now I can say resource data. Let's see. Do I want to keep... That's going to increment by 4 every time. So I'm going to need a new index here. I'm just going to keep another one in line here. So I'll say j equals 0, and then plus plus j here. And now I can say resource data vertex datas sub j dot height equals height. Okay? And so that's how we're going to go ahead and get the height from that. So we should feed that into the resource data. And then I think that's it. We should probably have some sort of default here. So if we don't have a Heightmap file, we should throw some sort of warning, right? Kwarn. No Heightmap was included using reasonable defaults for terrain generation. Okay. And actually, I'm just going to do the same exact thing here. All right. For now, Heightmaps are the only way to import terrains. All right. So that's our load. The unload is going to wind up being pretty simple as well. So terrain config, terrain config. We don't need this. Don't need this. We do have data, vertex data, so we do need to destroy that. And I think actually all the rest of this can go. Resource unload, I think, takes care of the name for us. Wait a minute, maybe not. cut this for now. Let me do resource unload. Why is it only giving me the header file? Okay. Loader utils. This does take care of full path and data. Does not take care of name, though. And I think name is actually part of the resource data. Yeah, so we need to check for that. So we'll go here. We do that. Oh, here we are doing the name here, but we should probably check to see if data name exists first. So then we free that. Then we zero out the memory of the config, perform the rest of the resource unload. And I think that's it for our loader. I think we're ready to register that. So let's go to resource system. Let's see. Register loader. Yeah, it's here. We do need to go to the top though and include it. So we'll include, whoops, pound include resources, loaders, terrain loader, and resource system loader register. I think I might be coding behind myself here. Let me move that up a little bit. And we'll say terrain resource loader create. That should register the loader. And now we should be able to load that from our simple scene config. All right, so let's go to let's see, where was that done? I think that was done in simple scene itself. Terrains. This is in initialize. Okay, so here we are basically hard coding a resource, which we don't want to do, obviously. So I'm going to comment this whole thing and instead say terrain. Actually, we need resource terrain resource and then resource system load. The name of the resource is going to be let's see, the scene config terrains sub I resource name. And then get rid of the file browser there. So the resource type is going to be resource type terrain. Params, I don't think we have any of, so I'm just going to pass 0 for that. And then for the resource itself, I'll pass the address, terrain, resource, right? Wrap all of this in a negative check. Say, hey, if this didn't work, let's bleat about it. Oh, I just thought of something. I actually didn't unload the image resource. I should probably go do that before I forget. Terrain loader. Let me just do that. Okay. Resource system unload. And we want the height map image resource. Okay. Oh, we need the address of that. Let me see, chat. Let's see. I'm dealing with API and cloud stuff. Tried game dev before. I can clearly say that game dev is quite complicated. Yeah, it is pretty complicated, for sure. Especially the engine side, yep. Is my engine single-threaded? No, it is not. It is actually multi-threaded. Not everything is multi-threaded in it. Like, I don't have a multi-threaded renderer yet, but I built it with that in mind. But yeah, we actually are actively using threads to load assets and things like that. Hey, if you were to choose a path today, thinking on better opportunities, would you choose to be a developer or cybersecurity? You know, that's a dang good question. I'd probably still choose to be a developer, only because as a developer, you can just kind of endlessly create things out of nothing. Whereas cybersecurity, you're always kind of fighting stuff. So for me, I would say the answer would be developer. But I can see where cybersecurity would be super, super interesting. Like, that's something I've kind of wanted to get into a little bit, but more as a hobby than anything else. But for me, the answer is definitely still developer, for sure. Okay. I feel like nowadays everyone wants to be a developer, and I can see it's starting to become oversaturated. Yes, but there are also a lot of people out there who don't take the time to understand fully what they're doing, and as a result, don't write great software. That's why so much stuff out there is slow nowadays, is because people just, kind of slam things together using 1,600 libraries and expect that it's going to run quick, right? I can say, one way that you can absolutely set yourself apart is by fully understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it. Understanding the low level of the way things work. And having a real understanding of the impact of the decisions you make as a developer. Because a lot of developers don't have that. They just sort of fly by the seat of their pants and throw things together and just like, let's make everything, using all these different, fancy design patterns, that they don't actually stop and think what problem they're actually trying to solve, right? And so it's like those kind of critical thinking skills are what'll set you apart. I've been trying, but it's so hard to land a job. Yeah, it definitely can be. I've had that struggle in the past for sure. Especially in the market right now. Absolutely. Yeah, so I wish you good luck with that for sure. But keep at it. Just keep at it. That's probably the biggest piece of advice I can give is just always be trying to improve your skills, right? Because that'll make you more marketable for sure. Hi, Les. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. Okay, so if we don't reload the terrain resource, I'm going to warn about it. Failed to load terrain resource. Oops. And continue. No sense crying over spilt milk, right? So if we fail to load the terrain resource, then we'll move on. Otherwise, instead of new terrain config, we will have terrain resource data. You know what? I'm going to have to cold cast that, aren't I? So terrain config. I guess I'll call it. Can I call it config? That seems like something I would have already had. Let's call it parsed config. Equals terrain config terrain resource dot data. Right, and then back here I can just say parsed config. Why are you bleating? What? It takes a copy of the config. Why did I do it that way? All right, whatever. I'll dereference it for now. But we really want to copy this. Okay, I don't need this anymore. Config terrains xform. Okay, that's going to be specific to the config that we parse out of. Yeah, so that should be fine. The only other thing that I think we need to do. Actually, that might be it. Okay, so we have the terrain created from that. We do need to go into the terrain. Oh, we need to unload the resource. That's what it was I was thinking. Resource system unload. We want the address of terrain resource. Don't want to leak that memory. That's what it was. Okay. We need to go into terrain.c and in initialize. We were kf random and range this. We're not going to be doing that anymore. So what we're going to do, what we're going to do instead is we will say, what do we call that? Config, I think. T config vertex datas. And we do have an I here already, which is perfect. So we need sub I dot height. And that'll be our position Y. And I think that should be everything that we need to do. I've probably forgotten or foobarred or missed something. But let's build it and find out. Kringer's flossed. Let's run. And we will launch testbed. And load up the scene. And we don't have anything. So we must have gotten some sort of errors in here somewhere. Or I just completely missed. Wait, what was that? No loader for type 9 was found. Oh, I bet I know what I did. I'll bet when I registered the loader that I copy pasted the type. Definition. No, the type is resource type terrain. Did I do the wrong thing in simple scene, maybe? No, resource type terrain. Did I not write all the files? I did not write all the files. New mistake. All right. All right, load. All right, well, we have something. It ain't right. We have some interesting data going on here. It read something. I'm not really sure what, but it read something. Let's see. You can also specialize. Yep. For example, my employer is more likely to hire a software engineer that also has experience with hardware, motors, cameras, etc. That's absolutely true. Yeah, specialization is a huge deal. Do I think that developers are at risk due to AI? No. I think AI is going to be a useful tool to developers to use. I do not think that that's going to replace developers anytime soon. No. I wouldn't even say in the near future. No. Okay, so obviously this data is definitely not what we're looking for, right? We've definitely foobarred something here. So I have a feeling it's probably in the terrain where we're mapping in the vertex data. So let's have a look at that real quick. So I think we're using, oh, you know what? This is wrong. I think. So we're using vertex data's sub I height. So this is each one of the vertices. So this is basically represents each pixel. So no, actually that should be correct. That should definitely be correct. We take a look at the loader. The fact that that we got data at all tells me that everything that we hooked up was correct. Whether or not it read all the values or not is questionable. Let's do terrain loader. And let's just double check. You know what? Let's open the console.log and make sure we didn't get any weirdness in here. Oh, okay. Uniform warnings, but that's not really, that shouldn't really affect us. Okay, so I don't see anything. No height map was included using reasonable defaults. Well, our reasonable defaults apparently are horribly wrong. So that's cool. I guess that's not zeroed like I thought it was. So no height map was included. So we fell into this case here. All right. So why did we fall into that case? We have, this should be height map underscore file. Let's try this again. So we'll load. And it looks like we have hit a crash. Sweet. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. All right. So let's have a look here at some of our. So image data is a null pointer. Which explains why this is wrong. So did we get anything? Did we get anything in the console.log? Let's take a look at console.log. Image resource. Oh, wait a minute. Assets, textures. So that is assuming, the image loader is assuming that it is in the textures folder. And I see another problem there too, but yep. Okay. So that's an issue because our resource loader really shouldn't, for images, really shouldn't be making that assumption. That should probably be a parameter that we pass in. So I'm not going to fix this right now. I'm going to put a fix me. Shouldn't make assumptions about this. Should be passed as a param. All right, so the way I'm going to work around this for now is I will cut this, put it back in textures. And then the image loader actually tries to parse the extension. So what we actually put in our file was wrong. So terrain, or k-terrain, the extension is not required. So we'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. We will write that file. And actually, I don't think we need to rebuild, but I guess I'll do it anyway. Weird temp or an account. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Do you want to ask a question? Is that what you're trying to say? Okay. Let's go ahead and build. And we will run. Launch testbed. Load. Okay, so we got a exception somewhere else. So let's see where did we wind up here? Resource data. All right, vertex data's. Oh, did we not? I didn't set up the array. Okay. Okay. So I need to go in here. Resource data. Vertex datas equals darray reserve. This will be terrain vertex data with a capacity of resource data vertex data length. Okay. Now we should be able to build all. Let me make sure I just wrote everything here. Yeah, okay. We'll go ahead and launch again. Load. And we've got another failure here. So image data. Pixels. So width 2048 by 2048 pixels U8 array. It looks like it has data in it. All right. I is less than. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, are you trying to say my my camera's covering it up? Yeah, I guess it is a little bit, isn't it? I can shrink that down maybe a little bit. But there's nothing really back here that I'm looking at. Like this, this is just a bunch of gibberish that's kind of output by the debugger, right? Like there's nothing really back there that I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is here and over here. Learn photography, yeah. I studied photography for a little bit, but you are right, you should look left. It's the way my setup is. If I mirrored it, it would be weird. I tried it one time and it just didn't look right. And I don't really have anywhere to put my camera over here, unfortunately. So it is what it is. So let's see. So your DevOps question is, if someone is pushing something to GitHub and then it broke and they reverted it and the changes got confused and conflicted and lost, and someone did a GitHub command to fix it, is that considered DevOps? No, I would not say so. No, DevOps is like the automation of like builds and kicking off builds and kicking off builds based on completion of tasks like tickets in Jira or something like that. Like that's DevOps ops kind of stuff. Or deployment is another big portion of that. But yeah, I wouldn't call, code fixes in GitHub. That's not DevOps, no. That's just development. Whose job is it to fix then? The developer. The developer who broke it should also fix it. Okay, so let me just try to understand here what... Wow, I and J are quite large. Although I guess that makes sense because that's about 4 times that. What is this actually failing to... Less than pixel count times 4. Well, actually, I guess I could just simplify this. I could simplify this by checking J against pixel count. I don't think that's going to fix it, but... Okay, so pixel count should just be... let's see, image data. 2048 by 2048. There's pixel count. 419. It is 4 channels. So that should be right. Wait, how did my... If my pixel count is this, how did my I... Oh, I see what I did wrong. I can tell I'm getting tired. Or I am tired. Okay. So instead of this, right? In fact, I'm just going to do away with J altogether. I don't need J. We're going to say I is less than pixel count. We're going to do plus plus I. Right? Because we're already compensating for that here, and I was compensating for it twice. So this just needs to be I. And that should do it. All right, so build, run, load. All right. Let's see. Cool. We have 1 triangle now. That's not at all what I expected. All right. So for some reason, it looks like our data must have gotten bungled somehow. Triangle in the car. That's all I need. Yep, I agree. Alphonse? What? I'm not sure what this guy is talking about in chat. Yeah, half a car, exactly. All right. I've gone a little bit over in terms of time, so I think I'm going to go ahead and probably wrap up the stream for tonight. Just because I'm really tired, and I'm sure this is probably something stupid, and I'll probably think of it the minute I shut the stream off. Yeah. Oh, hi, Alphonse. Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the stream now. So thank you guys so much for. Yeah, I have a feeling that joke's not gonna die for a while now. But yeah, thank you guys so much for following along. I really appreciate the support, and I think you guys know what time it is. I think you guys know that it's ferret time. So I'm going to raid ferret software because ferrets are awesome, and this goes to a really good cause. And yeah, check out the channel. Check out the ferrets. They're cute. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Thanks so much.